So hello and welcome to the channel. That certainly took some doing putting that to music. Anyway, welcome to the channel and welcome to another Project Cars 2 video, where in today's video we're looking at the amazing Sierra Cosworth around Donington GP circuit, and we'll also take a little look at it around the RedBull ring as well, just to finish out this setup guide. So let's get into it. Let's take a look at the lap, let's take a look at how the car's set up, and let's get into it. So before we get into the video, please just take a minute to stop the video or pause it and just hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. It would really help all the algorithms and get this channel building. Thanks very much guys, and on with the video. So then, let's look over this setup. Moving straight in with the tyre compounds. We're only going to be running the slick compound at the Donington circuit, unless we're going to be running in wet weather. So looking at the front tyres, we're going to be running these slightly harder than the rears. We're always trying to look for that rear end grip, especially in rear wheel drive cars. So usually I'd always run the rear tyre pressures slightly lower than the front. The brake pressure is going to be something that you're going to determine yourself depending on how you have your pedals set up. And the brake bias, I've slightly increased this more towards the front, running 61. But certainly if you're going to run this in the wet, I did find that the rear end still has a tendency to want to step out a little bit, so I'd slightly increase this up to 64. And the brake ducts, I've closed these out a little bit just to reduce that drag factor. And the rear downforce is absolute maximum because this car's got such a rear end that slides around. The caster angles, I haven't touched these, but the camber angles, I think these were as normal at 3 degrees or -3 degrees, but I've left them as they are. And we're not running fully as low as the car goes. It feels quite nice where it's sat. I don't think lowering it 5mm will make a massive difference. But still running slightly softer at the rear on the suspension than we are at the front. And the rear camber angles, usually I close these down a little bit to like 2, but there's just so much sliding at the rear. The steering ratio is set quite low. As you all know, I'm running the McLaren GT3 wheel. And the toe angle at the front, I don't think I've touched this at all, to be honest. Running slightly stiffer anti-roll bar at the front than we are at the rear, and the rear toe angle definitely increases as far as it goes to try and keep the car in a straight line under acceleration. Moving on to the dampers. Now, I don't think I've touched these at all. I've slightly lowered the bump stops because the car's been lowered a tiny bit, but I might have tweaked these a tiny bit during the setup, but nothing major. So I didn't think it added anything to the car at all. Now, the boost pressure is something that I've looked at time and time again, and on this circuit I'm running 90 to 92. I feel at 100 there's just too many corners and the car just tends to oversteer a lot. You lose a lot of acceleration because the boost's just spinning the rear tyres, and you just end up wearing the rear tyres up to just too much throughout a lap. Now on other circuits, I think 100% boost will be useful, and we'll look at that for the RedBull ring. But here at Donington, I definitely think about running a lower boost than you would usually think of. The radiator's absolutely open maximum because this car really does suffer with engine damage just because of the way the engine spools up, and the engine braking, because this car just struggles to stop, is at maximum. The final drive is the only thing that I've adjusted. I've not adjusted any of the other gear ratios themselves, but just increasing this slightly because we're using so much boost. Now the biggest change comes in the preload, or the power ramp should I say, just increasing this to 70. I think originally it's down at 25, but the car just oversteers so much, just trying to reduce that and increase the tyre life really. But the coast ramp's just as it was, I think. I don't think I've adjusted this at all. But moving down to something that made a massive difference is the viscous lock. Now initially this was set down at about 200, I think it was, and the lower you put the viscous lock, the more the car will want to rotate on corner entry. Now I thought the car was rotating just far too much under braking. It just seemed to oversteer so much on corner entry, so I started to increase this gradually to a point where I was happy with it, which was around the 400 mark. Now it does increase all the way up to I think over 1,000, but it starts to cause the car to understeer the more you put on, and even at 450, 500, I thought the car was starting to understeer more on corner entry, so 400 was where I've left it. Now, like I did mention, if you are wanting to use this car at circuits like the Red Bull Ring, any circuit, I think, where you're going into 5th gear, I would suggest putting the boost up to 100. But for slower, more twistier circuits where you're not getting into that 5th gear and there's not very many long straights, I'd recommend using around 90% boost. I don't think you'll lose as much as you think. So yeah, that's the setup, guys. Let's take a look at the lap. Let's take a drive around the circuit. So here we go then, and something I definitely recommend is coming off this corner, just practice feeding in the acceleration. As the turbo sort of comes in and you hear it sort of spooling up the revs, just try and come off the accelerator to a point where you're feeling more grip, and then get back on the power. 3rd gear is not so much an issue, but there is an issue around some of the corners in 3rd gear even. But yeah, accelerating hard down just at the 150 yard board, we're going to start to brake. Just running out wide, you can take a little bit more curb there and just try and pick up that curb on the right hand side and just get on the power really nice and early. Now as we're accelerating down here, we're going to try and stay with this ghost, just keeping your foot flat on the power through here, maybe a tiny little lift there, and then braking almost straight away, trying to keep the car in a straight line but turning it at the same time. You can take a bit of curb there, but not too much, and then again just trying to get the car straightened up and stay on the power all the way around here, touching this inside curb and then getting the car nice and straight again down into 3rd gear, staying in 3rd gear around here. Try and get on the power nice and early, get that turbo spooling. Don't let those rev drop. Tiny little brake before we come over the rise, and taking a little clip of that curb on the inside and just feathering the accelerator in as we come around here, trying to get as much traction as possible and not spinning up those rear tyres. Up into 4th gear, and we're going to start braking at this very first board, a little shift down into 3rd gear, and then take as much of this inside curb as you darest, maybe even knocking over both bollards, and then back on the power nice in a straight line, braking just as we come over the rise of the hill, down into 2nd gear, and try and just keep the car rolling as we come through here, trying to keep the car spooling, the turbo spooling. Don't get all sideways like that. You're really just trying to get the car nice and straight and just pick up as much traction as possible, braking down into 2nd gear and then just easing the throttle back in and accelerating and across the line. Let's take a look at my lap, flat out. Finally managing to hit those 134s. Anyway, let's move to the Red Bull Ring and just change the boost to 100%, and that's it for this one. The setup stays exactly the same. So here at the Red Bull Ring, we're going to be absolutely flat out for this one. There's no slow drive on this one. So coming up to turn 1, and you can see we're input into 5th gear, braking at the 150 yard board, down into 3rd gear, try and take as much of that curb as possible, trying to get the yellow stumpy curb underneath the middle of the car, really on the apex. Getting up all the way into 5th gear on this back straight, and this is the reason you're needing the 100% boost. Braking at the 150 yard board all the way down into 2nd gear, and try and keep the car rolling as we come up and over and up through the bend. Up into 3rd gear as soon as you get the car stable, and accelerating all the way down into a tiny little bit of 5th gear as well. Braking again at the 150 yard board. Normally braking at the 100 yard board, but 150 for this car because it just struggles to stop. All the way down into 2nd gear and accelerating as you can. 3rd gear and the wheels are still spinning. All the way up into 4th gear as we take this left-hander, dropping it down into 3rd gear. Car slides all over the place and trying to keep the power on in 3rd gear. Nice and straight, never really get enough to get up into 4th gear, that just for this corner. And then accelerating all the way around in 3rd gear, getting into 4th gear wherever you can do once the wheels have stopped spinning, and then braking again at the 150 yard board, or the 100 yard board on this one I think, then down into 3rd gear. Try and get a little squeeze of acceleration in between the gap there before we're just easing off for the last bend and accelerating up into 3rd gear, and finishing out another world record lap with a 1:35, absolutely bang on the nail. I'll leave the replay there with both replays from both videos, and if you've enjoyed this video, please do remember to hit that subscribe button. And if there's any videos or any cars or tracks you'd like me to feature on the channel, or you've got any other suggestions for any other videos to feature on the channel, please do leave a comment in the comment section. I do like to get back to all my subscribers and anyone that's interested in leaving a comment. Thanks again for watching, and stay safe people. Ciao for now.